Why would one of the wealthiest men in the country drop to his knees, in front of a poor 10-year-old boy? It wasn't in a boardroom. It wasn't at some charity event. It happened in a crowded hospital hallway, with cameras flashing, whispers spreading, and the entire city watching in disbelief. But to understand how a billionaire ended up kneeling before a child, you have to go back to the moment everything began, on a busy city street where thousands of people walked by, and only one small boy stopped. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the crowded city streets. Horns blared, footsteps hurried, and the noise of daily life drowned out everything else. Nobody noticed the girl at first. She was just another body on the edge of the sidewalk, slumped against the concrete. Pale. Still. Breathing so faintly it was hard to see. People glanced down and kept moving. A couple of businessmen shook their heads, muttering under their breath, probably another overdose. Just another lost cause. To them, she wasn't worth stopping for. She wasn't worth saving. But at the corner of that busy street stood someone different. A boy. No older than 10. His hoodie was too big, his sneakers worn thin, and a half-empty juice box dangled from his hand. His name was Malik. And while the rest of the city passed her by, Malik froze. Something in the girl's stillness pulled him closer, tugging at him in a way he couldn't ignore. His heart raced. He knew what people would say, "Mind your business, kid." But this didn't feel like something you walk away from. And in that moment, Malik decided he wouldn't. Malik crouched beside the girl, his knees brushing the cold pavement. Up close, she looked even younger, her tangled blonde hair matted across her cheek, lips drained of color, and her chest rising in shallow, uneven gasps. His small hands trembled. He remembered something he'd seen once on TV: tilt the head back, clear the airway, keep them breathing. He whispered under his breath, almost pleading, "Come on, don't quit, just breathe." All around him, life carried on like nothing was happening. Strangers muttered as they walked past, dismissing her as another reckless teen who made a bad choice. Nobody knew this girl was the daughter of Richard Callahan, one of the richest men in America. To them, she was just another forgotten soul on the pavement. Then Malik spotted it. A phone, screen cracked but still glowing faintly with a single word flashing across it: "Dad." He froze. His throat tightened. Should he call? Would anyone even believe him? He looked at the crowd. Faces that didn't care, eyes that wouldn't stop. And then back at her faintly rising chest. His fingers shook as he picked up the phone. Cold glass pressed against his palm. With one deep breath, Malik pressed the number. The dial tone rang in Malik's ear, each beep echoing louder than the last. His heart hammered as he gripped the cracked phone tighter. Then, a deep voice answered. Controlled. Sharp. Impatient. "Who is this?" Malik's throat went dry. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Sir, your daughter, she's on the ground. She isn't waking up." There was a pause. Not empty silence, but heavy. The kind of silence that carried suspicion. Then came the cutting reply. "Is this a scam? Do you have any idea who you're calling?" The boy's chest tightened. For a second, he wanted to hang up, to drop the phone and run. But he looked at the girl beside him, her breath faltering, her hand twitching weakly before going still again. His voice trembled, but he forced the words out. "I don't want anything. I swear. Please, just come. She needs you." A couple walking by slowed, whispering loud enough for Malik to hear. Probably setting up a scam. That's how they do it, distract you while the others come around. Heat burned in Malik's face. He wanted to shout that they were wrong. But he didn't. He stayed. On the other end of the line, the billionaire's suspicion lingered. He had heard every trick in the book: fake emergencies, fake kidnappings, fake ransoms. In his world, trust was dangerous. And yet, something in the boy's trembling voice carried a raw urgency no con artist could fake. Finally, the voice returned. this time lower, sharper. Where are you? Malik stammered up the cross streets as fast as he could. His pulse raced as the billionaire gave a single command. Stay there. The line went dead. Malik lowered the phone, chest rising and falling too fast. He stayed kneeling beside the girl, one hand hovering protectively near her as the city kept walking by. At first, it was only a sound, low, distant, and growing louder. Tires slicing against asphalt. An engine roaring with precision and purpose. Heads began to turn just as a sleek black car shot into view, sunlight glinting off its polished surface like a blade. The vehicle screeched to the curb, stopping so abruptly that even the crowd paused. Doors flew open in one swift, practiced motion. Two men in dark suits stepped out first, their eyes sweeping the scene, sharp and unyielding. Then the back door opened. A tall man in a navy suit emerged, his presence pulling attention instantly. His stride was steady, deliberate, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. People whispered as they recognized him. Richard Callahan. The billionaire. But his gaze wasn't on the crowd. It locked on Malik. And in that moment, suspicion turned his face to stone. To him, it looked exactly like his worst fear, his unconscious daughter lying in the hands of a stranger. Malik's heart lurched. He raised both hands quickly, the cracked phone still clutched in his grip. I didn't hurt her. I just stayed. His voice shook, but he didn't move away. His knees trembled, yet he remained by the girl's side. The billionaire strode forward, dropping down beside his daughter. For the first time, his hardened mask cracked. The sight of her pale face shattered every wall he carried. Emily, his voice caught, softer, stripped of authority. His hand gripped her wrist, searching desperately for a pulse. It was there, weak, faint, but there. One of the bodyguards muttered into a radio, "Medics are on the way." And then, finally, the sirens cut through the noise. Paramedics rushed forward, red bags swinging, stretchers unfolding. But before they took over, Malik's voice tumbled out in a rush. She was breathing strange. I tilted her head, like on TV, so she could breathe. I kept her that way. The medics checked quickly, their hands moving with trained efficiency. Then one looked up, meeting Malik's wide eyes. You did good, kid. You might have saved her from choking. For a moment, everything stopped. The billionaire froze. His eyes flicked from the medic to Malik. And for the first time, his guarded suspicion wavered. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and humming machines. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a cold, sterile glow. Richard Callahan, a man who commanded boardrooms and controlled empires, now paced like a prisoner in two small walls. His polished shoes clicked across the tile, then stopped, then clicked again. Each pause carried the weight of helplessness, a feeling he was unaccustomed to. Malik sat on a hard plastic chair against the wall, legs dangling, hoodie sleeves pulled over his small hands. He didn't fidget. He didn't speak. Every so often, he glanced at the double doors where the medics had wheeled the girl, Emily, minutes earlier. Whispers floated through the waiting room. Two women by the vending machine spoke just low. For a long moment, Richard Callahan just stared at the boy. His jaw tightened, as if he were holding back words that wouldn't come. He had built a life where every problem could be solved with money, power, or connections. But none of that had been there on the street. Only this boy. Finally, he crossed the waiting room, each step slow, deliberate. Malik's chest tightened as the tall figure loomed over him. Instinct whispered run. But Malik stayed rooted, clutching his cracked phone like a shield. Richard lowered himself to one knee, the expensive fabric of his suit brushing against the scuffed floor. For the first time, he wasn't looking down at the world, he was looking straight into Malik's eyes. You saved my daughter. His voice was low, rough, stripped of its usual authority. What's your name? Malik swallowed hard. M. Malik. The billionaire nodded, repeating it slowly, as though memorizing something valuable. Malik. The boy's eyes flicked to the doors again. Is she gonna be okay? A breath escaped Richard, almost like a laugh but softer, fragile. Thanks to you, yes. She's going to be okay. For a second, silence wrapped around them. No whispers, no footsteps, no humming lights, just a man and a boy, two worlds colliding in the sterile glow of a hospital waiting room. Then, Richard did something no one in the crowd would have expected. He extended his hand, not as a billionaire, not as a man of power, but as a father. I owe you more than I can ever repay. Malik stared at the hand. No one had ever said words like that to him before. His small fingers hesitated, then reached out. Their hands met, rough skin against silk, calloused innocence against wealth and control. And in that handshake, the ground shifted. Malik wasn't just a kid from the street anymore. He was the boy who stayed. After the handshake, Richard found himself unable to just stand back. He needed, to know more about the boy who had changed everything in a single night. He pulled a chair closer, lowering himself so he didn't tower over Malik. Tell me about you. Where's your family? Who looks after you? Malik's eyes darted to the floor. His sneakers were worn thin, the soles patched with tape. He twisted the edge of his hoodie between his fingers. It's just me most of the time. His voice was quiet, almost apologetic, like he was admitting something shameful. Mom, she works late. Real late. Sometimes she doesn't come home for days. Richard's throat tightened. He'd spent millions ensuring his daughter never went a day without comfort, security, or love. But here sat the boy who had saved her, a boy who carried burdens far too heavy for his small shoulders. And your dad? Richard asked carefully. Malik shook his head, lips pressing into a thin line. Don't got one. The words fell heavy between them, and Richard felt the weight of them like a stone pressing against his chest. Malik tried to shift the focus back, forcing a small smile. But I'm good at taking care of people. Like, I watch out for my little cousins when my aunt's tired. I learned first aid from this old book I found at school. He lifted his cracked phone, almost proudly. And I got this, so, I try to be useful. Useful. That was how Malik saw himself, not a child who deserved care, but a tool, someone who earned his place by what he could give. For Richard, it was like a mirror held to his own life. He had spent decades proving his worth in boardrooms, to shareholders, to a society that only respected power. And here was Malik, proving his worth to a world that barely noticed him. In that moment, something shifted again. Richard didn't just see Malik as the boy who saved his daughter. He saw him as a reflection of everything he had once been, and everything he had lost along the way. The revelation wasn't about charity or gratitude. It was about connection. This boy had walked into his life carrying scars invisible to most, and yet, he had still chosen to act selflessly. Richard realized, with a clarity that startled him, Malik had saved more than just his daughter. He had saved a part of him. By the time the doctors confirmed that Richard's daughter would make a full recovery, the story in that hospital had already changed. What began as a desperate call for help ended as something far bigger. Richard Callahan walked into that building as a billionaire, defined by power, distance, and wealth. But he walked out with something money could never buy: perspective. The boy he once might have overlooked had shown him a truth that no empire could teach: greatness isn't measured by fortune, but by heart. And Malik? He returned to his small world carrying no medals, no headlines, no spotlight, just the quiet knowledge that he had made a difference when it mattered most. For him, that was enough. But for Richard, it wasn't. The billionaire had seen too much to simply let this boy fade back into the shadows. The truth was undeniable: sometimes the people society ignores are the ones who hold the greatest strength. And sometimes, one small act of courage can change the course of two lives forever. So, the next time you see someone struggling, or you find yourself in a moment where you could walk away or stay, remember Malik. Because in a world that often looks the other way, choosing to stay might just change everything.